Part 53. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 526. Beep beep, beep beep. Sutingya gradually saw the scene in front of him clearly amid the piercing mechanical bells. She was lying on a silver mechanical bed, covered with a thin quilt. On the white diamond textured wall, a mechanical arm suddenly appeared and took Sutingya's quilt away. Sutingya sat up and glanced around, suddenly stunned. A small, square room, a bed, a table, a chair, a toilet, a sink, and then nothing. There are walls on three sides, only one side is an alloy iron fence, and there is an iron door on it, which is currently open. What's going on with her? Sutingya quickly checked the panel information. Copy, Island Prison. Background: in the highly developed high-tech era, humans are omnipotent in the sky and in the sea. Food, clothing, housing, and transportation have become absolutely worry-free. Precision and intelligent robots have replaced most of human production activities. On a vast ocean, there is an artificial island, and every inch of land on it is strictly guarded, because it is known as the most solid and inescapable prison in the world, where the most vicious prisoners are imprisoned. What awaits them is imprisonment until death, or something else, God knows. Number of players, 30. Main mission: escape from the island prison within 7 days. Difficulty: 6 stars. Duration: 7 days. Pass-through rewards: after clearing the level, you can get a certain amount of game currency, and have a probability of getting game props and lottery opportunities. Penalty for failure: 2,000 game coins deducted. Prison. This is a bit similar to the Trapped Beast dungeon. They are both imprisoned with restricted freedom, and they are also escape dungeons. The difference is that one is 4 stars in difficulty and the other is 6 stars in difficulty. Well, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this understanding. There shouldn't be any hidden Easter eggs in this round of dungeons, right? People turning into beasts, people eating beasts, etc. Sutingya muttered to himself. At this time, it seemed that Sutingya had been sitting on the bed for too long without getting off the ground. A square hole was opened in the wall, and a machine gun with a muzzle as thick as a thigh was pulled out and pointed at Sutingya's chest. Direction. Seeing this, Sutingya quickly got out of bed. When Sutingya left the machine bed, the machine gun that appeared was taken back. Although there was no threat from machine guns for the time being, Sutingya could clearly feel at that moment that if she were there for a few seconds at night, those machine guns would start shooting and beat her into a hornet's nest. The cell door opened. Depending on the situation, this was the time to let her out, right? Sutingya walked out of the cell and found many men and women walking in the corridor who had been driven out of the cell by machine guns. On both sides of this 3-meter-wide corridor are cells. Sutingya's clothes did not change, and the clothes of the other NPC inmates were not uniform, as if they were their own clothes, which saved trouble. Seeing that all the NPC inmates were walking in the same direction, Sutingya followed the large group obediently. After walking for a while, Sutingya found that the surrounding area was surrounded by surveillance cameras and machine guns, but he did not see the NPC prison guard. And with the threat of machine guns above their heads, no one dared to cause trouble. Finally, I seemed to see an exit ahead. After following the flow of people out, Sutingya discovered that this was the lobby of a space. Likewise, the walls are all in a cold, mechanical silver-white style. Lightning protection in advance. Island prison. Nightmare maze. Yin-Yang City. The above 3 dungeons, due to the development of the plot, focus on the plot between Gucci and Shan Yu. If you don't like Baizai, you can optionally skip it. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 527. Dear Little Fairies, Happy National Day. The voting results for the National Day Extra episode were indeed true. Not surprisingly, Big Fish received the most votes, followed by Kakai. Big fish, I can't help it, the little fairy is just too popular, Akimbo. So, next time you vote, I will kick the big fish and give others a chance. Dear friends, do you think I did the right thing? Hee hee. Big fish, is there anything wrong with being popular? Then I leave. Grumbling. Serious title, The Little Fairy is Just Passing By. Text. 100, 200. In front of the ATM at the entrance of the bank, a clean-looking, cute girl lowered her head and counted the pink coins she had just taken out. Take 500, I still have it in the card, just withdraw this much, it should be enough for a month. The girl collected the money and then pulled out her bank card. There were people waiting in line behind to withdraw money, so the girl quickly moved away. I will be 18 next year, and I can't continue to stay in the hospital. Alas. Thinking of this, the girl couldn't help but sigh. After missing out on adoption opportunities again and again, the girl no longer had any expectations for adoption. When she grew up a little and was allowed to go out by the hospital, she went into the society to take on various private jobs and part-time jobs, saving money to wait until she became an adult. After moving out of the orphanage, I can at least have money to rent a house. But when the girl was 13, she was only a little over 1.5 meters tall. It would take a year or two for her to grow 0.05 meters taller. Compared with most of her peers, she had almost stopped growing. Her appearance is soft and cute, and she still has baby fat on her face, which makes her look very young. Many places dare not recruit her without seeing her ID card. Just as the girl was planning the future in her mind, panicked voices suddenly erupted from the door of the bank next to her. Huh? Is there a melon? The girl blinked her big eyes, curiously walked towards the bank door, and took a look. Bang! 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 3 gunshots rang out, and the panicked people in the bank subconsciously squatted down with their heads in their hands. Don't even move. Squat there with your head in your hands. Anyone who dares to run will be killed. Who is that at the door? Come in here. Hold your head and squat down. With the muzzle of the black hole pointing in her direction, the girl's eyes were stunned for a second, then she turned around and looked around, confirming that she was the only one still standing at the door. Are you calling me? The girl moved a few steps into the door, squatted down on the edge of the door, and held her head in her arms. A robber quickly ran over, closed the bank door, and locked it. The girl Qian Mimi turned her head and glanced, feeling regretful in her heart. Why did you come in just now? It's just a shrinking head, not faster than a gun. Taking things as they come, the girl began to observe the situation inside the bank. All bank staff and ordinary people were forced to squat on the ground with their heads held in their hands. A dozen big men with half their faces tied with black cloth stood among the people with fierce looks on their faces, holding machetes or axes in their hands. Only one big man held a machete or an axe. There was a pistol inside. Is this a bank robbery? The girl silently counted 12 gangsters present. The gangsters with guns have begun to threaten the bank staff to take out the cash and then put it into the sacks prepared by the gangsters in advance. The girl was squatting in the corner. Except for a gangster guarding the door, there was no danger. After such a big incident, the gangsters also possessed prohibited guns, which quickly attracted the attention of the local police, and recently the special police force was dispatched. In less than 20 minutes, the 200 meters outside the bank had been cordoned off by the police. Listen to the gangsters inside, you are surrounded. The police began to shout. Before the money was received, the police came. The gangsters suddenly became nervous. The gangster boss holding a gun struggled for a while and decided to step in to stabilize the police outside, but he had to take hostages with him. Fangzi, grab a hostage and come over. The hostage guarding the door responded, then turned around and took a look at the girl closest to him. He took a few steps over and grabbed the girl's back collar with one hand. "Brother, the hostages are here," Fang Ziyi pulled the girl while walking. "You're stupid. This won't work. You're too short. Find someone about the same height as me." The gangster came over, glanced at the girl who looked frightened and was still holding her head, and then yelled angrily. "Oh, okay, boss." Fang Ziyi let go of the girl's back collar and turned to find the next hostage. After the girl was released, she glanced at the gangster boss who was close at hand. The latter did not look at the helpless little girl. Instead, he stared at the other hostages and just yelled at the girl. Said, "Go back quickly." The next second, the girl with a low eyebrow suddenly hit the gangster boss in the abdomen with her elbow. When the gangster boss was stunned, he stepped forward, grabbed the right wrist holding the gun with his white and tender palm, and twisted it slightly. "Ah!" A scream of pain rang out. The only pistol at the scene fell to the ground, and was stepped on by the girl. Another straight leg kicks out, accurately kicking the gangster boss in the crotch, which is the most vulnerable part of a man. Ouch! Dash. With a plop, the gangster boss ignored the injury to his right hand, covered his crotch with both hands, and knelt down in an inner position. His face turned green and red, and his facial features were distorted several times. "Brother! Brother! Are you okay? Smelly girl! You are looking for death." In just 10 seconds, something unexpected happened, which really shocked everyone present, and the remaining 11 gangsters rushed towards the girl with frightened and angry expressions. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 528. At this time, hundreds of small square areas on the empty lobby floor were opened at the same time, and hundreds of sets of dining tables and chairs were raised inside. The dining tables were filled with the same amount of food and drinks, and each dining chair had there is a series of numbers, and the format of the number is, 1 uppercase letter plus 3 numbers. Sutingyu quietly looked at the NPC inmates around him and found that they were walking towards the dining table with calm expressions, and their route of action seemed to have been planned in advance. No one conflicted because of the competition for position. Number? These prisoners are all numbered, so what is your number? In general prisons, the numbers given to inmates are either on their uniforms or in the cells where they live. Sutingyu thought back to the cell she first walked out of. The walls inside were smooth and clean, but outside, each cell was separated by a wall, and there was a small sign posted on the wall. After thinking for a few seconds, Sutingyu walked to the corresponding table based on his general impression. A dining table with 8 seats. To be on the safe side, Sutingyu walked around half a circle and waited for the other 7 seats to be occupied before sitting in the last empty seat. Bang! Bang! Suddenly, a series of machine gun shots sounded, with blood splattering everywhere. After a few seconds, the sound of machine gun fire stopped, and there were 2 more blood-stained corpses on the smooth floor. When Sutingyu saw the face of one of the corpses clearly, his expression was slightly startled. It turned out to be Boss Cao, whom I met in Liming Mountain. I still remember that when we were in the Dawn Mountain dungeon, Boss Cao acted like a superior veteran player in front of the newcomers. It's really too bad to die at the start now. After sighing for a moment, Sutingyu secretly pondered the cause of death of Boss Cao and another person. Next to Boss Cao's body, a strong man spat in a low voice, "You were blind and sat in the wrong seat. You deserve what you deserve." Sutingyu was secretly shocked. It turns out that the cause of Boss Cao's death was that he found the wrong seat. Except for the strong man who complained, the others remained silent. However, some people looked at the 2 corpses on the floor that were about to be dragged away by the robot, with a hint of schadenfreude and no sympathy or pity in their eyes. From this small incident, Sotigny could roughly tell that this prison seemed to maintain order extremely well. Even the dining seats for inmates were strictly planned, and no one was allowed to sit in the wrong place. Those who make mistakes will die. While Sotigny was eating, he watched from the corner of his eye as the humanoid robot appeared and put the two corpses into a refrigerator and transported them away. Then a small cleaning robot came out to clean up the blood stains on the floor. In addition to the disposal of corpses, Sotigny also found that the inmates around him generally ate very quickly, as if they would not be able to eat any more in the next second. Seeing this, Sotigny also speeded up his meal. Needless to say, this rice melts in your mouth and has a pretty good texture. Some of it looks like it is made from a mixture of eggs, flour, etc. It has a soft and smooth appearance, like pudding, and this is just one of them. Sotigny took a quick look and found that there were 7 or 8 types of breakfast including drinks. About half an hour later, a warning light appeared in the center of each dining table and began to flash red. Seeing this scene, the prisoners who were still devouring their food stopped eating one after another. Sotigny also quickly stopped talking. Bang! Bang! Machine gun fire rang out again. The new body fell to the ground, its mouth still stuffed with the food it had just eaten. Sotigny's eyes darkened. In this situation, if you don't stop eating within the stipulated time, you will be shot. Once again, robots show up to dispose of bodies and clean floors. How come there are so many fools today? A prisoner at the same table as Sotigny whispered disdainfully. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 529. At the end of breakfast time, 9 doors made of special alloy were opened on the walls of the entire lobby, and each door had a small display screen with different letters lit up. Sotigny's number is R444. Sotigny found the door with the letter R on it, which was the 4th door from the left. However, Sotigny deliberately took 2 steps slowly and followed the prisoner at the same table with the same letter number. Seeing that the prisoners who also started with R were all heading towards the 4th door on the left, Sotigny felt relieved and followed closely behind. After passing through the long corridor, there is a mechanical door at the end of the corridor, and there is a robot waiting next to it. Sotigny secretly looked at the mechanical door in front of him from the corner. Every prison inmate must first put a silver bracelet on his wrist given by the robot before passing through the mechanical door. After the prisoner successfully passes through the mechanical door, a green light will light up at the top of the mechanical door. The green light should mean everything is normal. Sotigny was very curious about the function of this bracelet. Now that he was in prison, and it was a bracelet worn by prisoners, it was probably not a very good thing. But every prisoner wearing a bracelet has a calm expression, and they all seem to be familiar with this bracelet. Therefore, this bracelet should not be dangerous for the time being. In other words, as long as order is followed, there should be no problems. One by one, the prisoners put on their bracelets and passed through the mechanical door safely. The number of people in front of Sotigny gradually decreased, and it would soon be her turn. At this time, Sotigny saw a familiar figure at the mechanical door. Sotigny's big eyes lit up instantly. It's Kikai. Sotigny was in a good mood after seeing Qin-Chi so early in this dungeon, but he still had to suppress his emotions. The moment Sotigny watched Qin-Chi put on the bracelet, the latter's player panel suddenly popped up. For a few seconds, Qin-Chi stared at the panel and gradually frowned, but soon, Qin-Chi turned off the panel and walked towards the mechanical door with a normal expression. Is the panel out? Did Kikai receive any message from the panel system? Sotigny had this doubt in his heart. When it was Sotigny's turn, she honestly stretched out her right hand and asked the robot to put on the bracelet. The moment the bracelet was put on, her own panel popped out. Because he had seen Qin-Chi's panel pop up before, Sotigny was prepared and walked towards the mechanical door honestly while checking the contents of the panel. Notice. The player Angel Su carries a confinement device, the inventory will be temporarily closed, and the player will not be able to use game props. Congratulations on unlocking the side personal voluntary mission. Side mission, kill a designated player in this round of copy. Side goal, brother is just a legend. Branch time, 7 days. Side reward, after the mission is completed, the confinement device on the body will be released immediately after the dungeon is cleared, 1000 game coins, a random prop, and a lottery chance of *10 will be rewarded if the dungeon fails to be cleared this round, half of the reward will be deducted. Sutingyu turned off the panel and felt a wave of emotion in her heart. Sutingyu was no stranger to the confinement device and had seen it in the Trapped Beast dungeon. However, this is the first time I encountered the subsequent branch personal voluntary mission. Will all players in this round of dungeons receive the same side quest, or is it just her or a few? Sutingyu prefers the former. As a result, it will not be so easy for the players in this round of dungeons to form an alliance. After all, everyone knows that one of the players wants to kill him and get a reward. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 530. But no one knows which player received the side mission of killing him. Sutingyu doesn't know now who among the other players wants to kill her. Fortunately, Sutingyu's target was not Qin-Chi or any of them. This was the advantage of the carpool ticket. Moreover, this side mission is not mandatory. Even if the target is Qin-Chi and the others, Sutingyu doesn't have to complete it. But when the target is an unrelated player, the reward is huge, and not all players can resist the temptation to kill the target. 1000 game coins is not a small amount in the eyes of ordinary players. And after completing the side mission, even if the current round of copy fails, you can still get a side reward of 500 game coins to stop the loss. In this round of dungeons, we not only have to think about how to escape from the prison, but we also need to be wary of other players. Sutingyu quickly thought of the difficulty of this round of dungeons. We need to find Qin-Chi and the others as soon as possible. They are all friends we know in real life. They have experienced many rounds of dungeons together, and they are also car buddies who carpool. They are definitely more trustworthy than other players. Naturally, the first person Sutingyu was looking for was Qin-Chi, whom he had just met. After exiting the mechanical door, Sutingyu finally came into contact with normal sunlight. At a glance, she actually came out. The large area in front of you is a large pasture where many animals are kept, such as chickens, ducks, cattle, and sheep. At the outermost edge of the ranch, there are silver metal walls and tall towers, with robot prison guards patrolling them at all times. And Sutingyu finally saw a living prison guard. Each prison guard has a cold face, is fully armed, wears weapons at all times, and drinks cold drinks, as if he is assigning tasks to every prisoner who comes out. R444. A female prison guard called Sutingyu's number, and the latter hurried over. Sutingyu glanced around and saw that the people ordered by the female prison guard were all female inmates, not a single one of them male. Sutingyu was in trouble. How can she find Qin-Chi? Sutingyu looked around secretly. There were too many people and Qin-Chi was nowhere to be seen. The female prison guard assigned Sutingyu the job of collecting eggs. After a night, the hens in the pasture laid a lot of eggs. When the female prison guard announced this mission, the other female prisoners looked at Sutingyu with a bit of pity and happiness. This look directly gave Sutingyu a bad feeling. Just picking up an egg shouldn't be difficult, right? However, there must be a lot of hens in the pasture. Sutingyu was not the only one to take over this task. 4 other female prisoners had extremely unpleasant expressions on their faces when they heard about this task. Out of curiosity, Sutingyu and 4 other female inmates came to the outskirts of the chicken farm. Sutingyu glanced around and roughly estimated the number of hens here. There should be 400 to 500. The 4 female prisoners walked into the door of the chicken farm as if they had given up on themselves. The door of the chicken farm is also a mechanical door. When the female inmate walks in, the green light of the mechanical door lights up, and everything is normal. It looks like identifying one's identity. Sutingyu finally walked in. After a while, a female prisoner covered her face and screamed, and blood was bleeding from the fingers of the palm covering her face. In front of her, several hens with fried feathers were guarding their eggs and staring at the injured female prisoner with fierce expressions. One of the hens had fresh blood on its feet. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 531. Seeing this scene, Sutingyu blinked his big eyes in slight surprise. Such a ferocious hen is rare to see in reality. The female inmate whose face was scratched also had an angry face, staring at the hen that scratched her, as if she wanted to kill the chicken and make soup immediately. What a careless thing. Haha, the face R522 cares about most about her is now ruined. Seeing this situation, the other female prisoners immediately laughed at the injured R522, and then approached the hens in other areas with solemn faces. Sutingyu looked around, then took the basket and set off to find an area to pick up eggs. As soon as they saw the person, the nearby hens all looked evil, and their feathers gradually exploded. Sutingyu put down the empty basket in his hand and walked towards the nest of eggs. The hen guarding the nest saw Sutingyu approaching. When he was less than 2 meters away, the hen flapped its wings and flew up, showing 2 sharp claws and clawing at Sutingyu's face. Come! Suting avoided the 2 chicken claws with quick eyes and hands, and then decisively took action, grabbing the hen's neck as it flew into the air, and pinched it with a controlled force. Oh. The hen was choked and fainted. Sutingyu casually dropped the hen. In less than a second, Sutingyu suddenly felt a chill, as if there were several murderous intentions targeting him. A small disc-shaped robot suspended above the chicken farm flew down. The base of the small robot shone a light blue light on the fainting hen. After checking that the hen had just fainted and there was no big problem, the small robot returned flying back again. After the little robot left, the murderous intention surrounding Sutingyu disappeared instantly. Is this passing the test? Sutingyu walked around the fainted hen and picked up all the eggs from its nest. There were 4 eggs in total and put them all into the basket. When the female prison inmate was injured on the face by a hen but did not take any substantial revenge, Sutingyu vaguely guessed that the inmates could not harm the hens here. So when Sutingyu made his move just now, he also noticed this. Just fainting did not cause any substantial harm to the hen. Since this method was effective and did not violate prison order, Sutingyu went free to look for the next nest of eggs. There was only 1 nest with 2 eggs. Sutingyu ignored it and instead focused on the chicken nests with more than 3 eggs. The reason why these hens still have so many eggs is probably because the previous batches of prisoners did not come to take them away. As they accumulate day by day, there are more eggs. Sutingyu felt that it was too hard for a hen to hatch so many eggs, so he took it as a good deed and took away the eggs to save hens from the loneliness of hatching. Basket after basket of eggs is brought out of the chicken farm and placed in a designated transportation area. Sutingyu found that it seemed that he could not work enough to get off work, so he secretly lowered his efficiency. It originally took 10 minutes to bring out a basket of eggs, but later, it took nearly 40 minutes to bring out a basket of eggs. Even so, Sutingyu found that he was the fastest at picking up eggs. Time passed bit by bit, and Sutingyu also secretly counted the time. At 12:30, a string of bells rang throughout the ranch, and the inmates eagerly walked out of their respective work areas and returned their work tools. Seeing this situation, Sutingyu knew without guessing that the work was over. Following the flow of people, the prisoners returned to the lobby where they had been in the morning and started having lunch. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 532. Since breakfast time is half an hour, lunch time should be about the same. Half an hour is enough for a full meal. Sutingyu slowed down his eating speed and looked for Qin-Chi furtively. Finally, Sutingyu found Qin-Chi at another dining table. The numbering of tables and chairs follows a pattern. For example, at Sutingyu's table, the numbers for 8 people all have the same letter, and the last 3 digits are 8 adjacent numbers. And for the tables in this row, all numbers begin with the letter R. After determining the row number, Sutingyu also figured out that Qin-Chi's number started with the letter V. In the 26-letter ranking, R and V are 3 letters apart. All the prisoners were eating their meals honestly, and there were some voices from time to time. As long as the sound was not too loud, it would not alert the machine guns above their heads. While Sutingyu was waiting for the end of lunchtime, a long opening opened in the center of a wall. Inside was a transparent glass window of the same area, and inside the glass window, 2 male figures appeared. One person is wearing a suit and leather shoes, with shrewd eyes. A man with white hair and a white coat. The white-haired old man lowered his gaze and looked at the prisoners, as if he were selecting goods in a shopping mall. After watching for a long time, 1 minute before the prisoners' lunchtime ended, the white-haired old man pointed downwards, then nodded to the man in the suit, then turned and left. After the person left, the man in the suit moved his hands and closed the opened wall again. Just when Sutingyu was wondering about the identities of those 2 people, a humanoid robot appeared. The prisoner NPCs present began to stir uneasily. Under everyone's gaze, the 4 robots walked up to the 4 prisoners and without any explanation raised their guns and threatened the 4 men to stand up. No. I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere. Some of the 4 people collapsed and screamed, and some even wanted to resist and escape, but without exception, the gun in the robot's hand was activated, and the muzzle of the gun emitted an electric current that could cause people to faint, accurately electrocuting the 4 people. After losing resistance, the 4 were dragged away mercilessly by the robot. Damn, I'm scared to death. A man at the same table gasped in a low voice, with a happy face on his face. The same goes for the other prisoner NPCs. This made Sutingyu confused again. If I remember correctly, in the introduction background of this prison, it was mentioned that the inmates held in the prison are all extremely vicious criminals. It stands to reason that criminals should be more ruthless and more capable than ordinary people. Just like the female inmate with a scratched face that Sutingyu saw in the chicken farm that morning, an ordinary woman would not have the sense to continue picking eggs even though her face was covered in blood. And now, the 4 prisoners who were to be taken away by the robot, without exception, all clearly showed fear. What will happen to the prisoners taken away by robots? Is it related to the 2 men who appeared earlier? As soon as 13 o'clock arrived, the warning light on the dining table appeared on time, and all the prisoners were driven back to their cells. Before entering the corridor leading to the cell, Sutingyu paid special attention to which corridor Qin-Chi left. There were 3 aisles away from the one she was about to enter. Before leaving, Sutingyu, who had been paying attention to Qin-Chi, suddenly received the former's gaze. When Qin-Chi saw Sutingyu, his eyes paused slightly, and he also glanced at the aisle where Sutingyu was about to enter. Seeing this, Sutingyu blinked his big eyes gently and responded silently. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 533. Sutingyu slowly followed the flow of people towards the R area of the cell. In the lobby where Sutingyu just went, there were prisoners with letter numbers RZ. If this prison allocates prisoners according to 26 letters, then there should be at least 2 places in this prison that provide a lobby for prisoners to dine and gather. If you can't find Gucci and Fatty here, there is a high probability that they are in the lobby elsewhere. I had only been in the dungeon for half a day. Even with limited personal freedom, meeting Qin-Chi was a big gain. In addition, Sotingyu also had a preliminary understanding of the style of this prison. The world background of this round of copies is the high-tech era, where robots are widely used in life and production. That means that it is much more difficult for players to escape from prison. At this time, it is necessary to complete side tasks, release the confinement device, and regain the help of the inventory, and it is not like a panel at all. The meaning of voluntary in the surface text. Because, it seems to be a multiple choice question, but in fact the player has no choice. In the dungeon, a little bit of compassion for strangers may lead to one's own tragedy. After returning to her cell, Sotingyu sat on the edge of the bed, lowered her head and fiddled with the bracelet. Suddenly, she thought of something. By the way, the pet collar can be broken off, so this bracelet. Sotingyu's calm little heart started to beat again. At this moment, a machine gun appeared on the wall, its muzzle pointed at Sotingyu, and a mechanical arm threw the quilt taken away in the morning back to Sotingyu. Sotingyu blinked his big eyes and took the quilt in confusion. What's going on? Just as Sotingyu was about to stand up, he barely moved his body, and was keenly noticed by the machine gun, which moved the muzzle forward a few centimeters. Does this mean she is not allowed to move? Still. Sotingyu's eyes rolled slightly, and his body slowly moved a little further into the bed. When Sotingyu made this move, visible to the naked eye, the machine gun retreated a short distance. A trace of absurdity flashed in Sotingyu's heart. No. It's a bit like when she was taking a nap in the orphanage when she was a child. The teacher in the orphanage kept a close eye on two naughty children who didn't want to take a nap. Is this machine gun forcing her to sleep now? To be honest, Sotingyu had seen a prison system that forced prisoners to return to their cells on time, but he had never seen a prison system that forced prisoners to sleep. After Sotingyu lay down on the bed, the machine gun retracted into the wall. At this time, Sotingyu had not closed her eyes, and she was not sleeping. Sotingyu remembered that the background of the dungeon clearly mentioned that robots had replaced most of the production activities, and humans in this dungeon world no longer lacked food. Then why go to all the trouble to detain a group of extremely vicious prisoners here? Just to use the labor of prisoners to raise livestock? Sotingyu felt that this reason was not valid, and it would be more cost-effective to euthanize these prisoners with one shot. What is the purpose of establishing this island prison? Thinking of this, Sotingyu inexplicably remembered the 4 prisoners who were suddenly taken away during lunchtime. I always feel that there is something very complicated behind this prison. Perhaps Sotingyu had kept his eyes open for too long without sleeping, and the machine gun on the wall popped out again, aiming straight at Sotingyu's head. I'm so sleepy, so sleepy. I'm going to sleep right away, I'm going to sleep right away. Sotingyu quickly closed her eyes. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 534. 10 seconds later, Sotingyu's breathing became steady. The machine gun slowly retracted into the wall. Hearing the movement, Sotingyu secretly breathed a sigh of relief, but he did not open his eyes. With this kind of all-round surveillance all the time, it was almost impossible for Sotingyu to secretly open the bracelet without being discovered immediately. Brother is just a legend, right? To have such a high-profile and arrogant game nickname, this big brother who has never met him is a good person who is willing to sacrifice himself for others and does good things non-stop. Sotingyu must find this big brother as soon as possible, praise him face to face, and seek a little bit of help. Copy time, 1400 hours. Beep beep, beep beep. Sotingyu lay there for almost an hour. When he heard the harsh mechanical bell, he rolled over and got out of bed immediately. Just like the situation in the morning, the prisoner who had rested for noon had to start a new job. This time, instead of going to the lobby like in the morning, I took a route in another direction. After walking for about 10 minutes, you can see some large industrial instruments in operation ahead, with some robots interspersed among them, responsible for controlling some key areas. Sutinyu looked around. This area looked like a processing factory. This is the prisoners' work area this afternoon. Some prison guards were also left in the processing plant, and they began to be responsible for assigning tasks. Sutinyu was assigned to package the finished products. However, most of the packaging is done by machines, and Sutinyu only needs to check the integrity of the packaging and affix a finished product label. It's just that the speed of the assembly line is very fast. If there is a slight slack, the incoming products cannot be cleared in time, and the new ones continue to pile up there, which can easily cause a short shutdown of the assembly line. As for the consequences of affecting work, Sutinyu felt, the machine guns and various floating robots that were staring at the prisoners overhead were the consequences. While working, Sutinyu went to check to see if Qin-Chi was here, but everywhere he looked, they were all unfamiliar faces. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. One prisoner collapsed from exhaustion. Sutinyu glanced at the prisoner who was surrounded by machine guns and robots, not a player. There are only 30 players in this round of dungeons, and they are randomly placed in this prison. Without some luck and judgment, you may not be able to recognize the identity of the other player even if you pass by. As for checking the player's board, you can't walk around staring at the prisoners coming and going all the time. Well, where is the big brother I have never met before? Sutinyu was looking forward to an unexpected encounter in her heart. 4 hours, 5 hours. As time went by, Sutinyu couldn't stand it anymore. Damn it! More than 5 hours of non-stop work, during which only 10 minutes were allowed to solve physical problems. This is simply squeezing. Black-hearted factory. Several prisoners opposite Sutinyu were doing the same job as her, but until now, 3 of them had fallen one after another. Those inmates who were so tired that they collapsed and fainted were immediately dispatched by robots in the next second, and those who couldn't hold on were taken away from the processing plant and their whereabouts were unknown. For a moment, Sutinyu thought about whether he should pretend to be weak so that he could be taken away by the robot to find out other conditions in the prison. But what if all the prisoners who were taken away never returned, the risk of following them would be quite high. Sutinyu was still not sure whether he could break off the bracelet with one hand. Without the help of the items in the inventory, he felt it would be better to be a little more clumsy and developed. After all, Sutinyu was also made of flesh and blood. Without any props to protect him, he was shot by several machine guns. That scene. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 535. Copy time, 2100 hours. It is finally over. I'm so exhausted. At the end of an assembly line, where the finished products are held, a beautiful young woman pushed the last batch of goods into the box below. Her whole body relaxed, and her pale face showed a trace of fatigue. After working for a full 7 hours, even a hardcore person couldn't stand it. If it were in reality, I would have gone into shock a long time ago. The woman twisted her sore neck. If I had known that a normal dungeon would be so frustrating, I might as well have participated in an event dungeon. You have to work hard no matter what, and the rewards of event dungeons are much richer than ordinary dungeons. The woman followed the flow of people out of the factory. Because of her overly beautiful appearance, she frequently attracted the attention of people nearby. And she was secretly using the panel to check everyone passing by. The woman was thinking secretly in her heart, the song is not over but the people are still together. The nickname of the game is quite literary. It should be a female player, but it doesn't rule out some artistic young people who often use a few harsh words on their lips. I don't know where this person is. When he came out, Sutinyu didn't forget to check if there were any players nearby, but found nothing. And there was no progress at all on his personal mission. But personal tasks must be done. 1. Remove the bracelet. This bracelet has the function of confining the inventory. In this high-tech prison, it may also have the function of positioning and monitoring. If you do not remove the bracelet, the difficulty of escaping from the prison will increase. 2. It is natural to restore the free use of the inventory. After all, I am a weak little fairy. Without the protection of props, it is difficult to guarantee personal safety. Sutinyu thought of the previous copy of Angel Apartment, where there were not so many NPC distractions, and everyone knew the player's identity, so there was no need to look for a needle in a haystack like now. Sutinyu returned to the dining hall. This dinner, the other inmate NPCs ate even more voraciously, and Sutinyu looked at it in a daze. Fortunately, there was plenty of food for dinner, so there was no fighting over food. It was still half an hour to eat. After work, when Sutinyu was wondering whether the prison would allow inmates to work the night shift to continue the squeeze, he saw that all the NPC inmates had happy faces. Sutinyu raised a question mark in her heart. Why are you all so happy? Soon, Sutinyu knew. Sutinyu followed the flow of people into a building. As soon as he entered, Sutinyu was a little surprised when he saw the scene in front of him. It is not a cold prison cell, nor a high-pressure and forced work area, but a place for leisure and entertainment. Even the walls and floors have been greatly changed, making everything feel warm and relaxed, without the cold and depressing feeling. After a while, Sutinyu observed the situation of the inmates around him and realized that the hour after dinner was actually the inmates' free entertainment time. Is this reasonable? Well, no matter how terrible the prison is, it can still develop humanistic care. By the way, isn't it possible that we can take the opportunity to find Kikai and the others now? Sutinyu's eyes suddenly lit up. This way? This way, Sutinyu chose a direction and couldn't wait to find Qin-Chi and the others. At the same time, outside a men's room. Boss, don't we go find the boss and brother Qin? The fat man asked in confusion. Gucci replied, there's no rush. At this time, Gucci suddenly turned his head and looked at a male prisoner who had just come out of the toilet. The latter turned his head and looked around, then walked in the direction of a few people. Gucci, follow me.